Let's dive right into this explainer and demystify exactly how websites are actually built. If you've ever wondered what's going on behind the scenes of your favorite websites, you are in the exact right place. We're going to break down the invisible architecture of the web step by step.
We've got a great roadmap today. Welcome to the web, anatomy of HTML tags, document structure and trees, nesting and text formatting, linking the web together, and finally, adding images. We're going to start macro with how your browser fetches a page and zoom all the way down into the exact tags used to build the structural foundation, format text, and display images.
Part 1. Welcome to the web. The journey begins. So let's start with a fundamental mystery, right? What actually happens behind the scenes when you type a web address into your computer? Well, to understand the code, we first got to understand the environment it lives in. The web, or the World Wide Web, is, at its core, simply a massive global network where computers talk to each other. And to make sure they're actually understanding one another, they use a communication standard called HTTP, which stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol.
Think of it like a giant ongoing conversation. Your browser, Chrome, Safari, whatever you use, is acting as a web client. It sends a request out to a web server, kind of like you asking a librarian to go grab a specific book. That server then fetches a totally ordinary text file and sends it right back to you. Literally, the entire internet relies on this simple client-server handshake. Moving on to Part 2, Anatomy of HTML Tags, Dissecting the Code. If servers are really just handing us text files, let's pry one open and dissect the hidden instructions inside. These files aren't just plain words. They're written in HTML, or Hypertext Markup Language. HTML relies on these little markup tags that act like tools in a toolkit. Basically, they're hidden instructions telling your web browser exactly how to render the content on your screen.
Now, most of these tags act like containers, meaning they come in pairs. You've got an opening tag wrapped in angle brackets, and then a closing tag that looks almost identical, except it has a /. The actual text you want your users to see, that sits snugly right between them.
What's really cool is how those opening tags can be customized using attributes and values. An attribute gives the tag some extra identity, like a specific class or style, and it sits right inside that opening bracket. The value is just the specific data you're assigning to it, safely tucked inside quotation marks. It gives you absolute control over how that element behaves.
All right, Section 3, Document Structure and Trees, Building the Foundation. We know what a tag looks like, so let's zoom out and see how this builds the actual foundation of a functioning web page.
Because you can't just throw tags onto a page completely at random. Structurally, an HTML document behaves like a tree. This is often called the Document Object Model, or DOM. At the very root, you have the HTML tag. That main trunk branches off into a head section for hidden metadata and a body section which holds absolutely everything the user actually sees.
Since we're building this tree structure, we naturally end up putting tags inside of other tags. We call this nesting. But when you do this, you absolutely have to remember the golden rule. Whichever element opens first, closes last. You have to treat them like physical Matryoshka nesting dolls. If you open a body tag and then pop a P paragraph tag inside it, you must close that P tag before you can close the body tag. It's crucial.
Part 4, Nesting and Text Formatting, the core building blocks. With that structural tree in place, let's transition from the abstract framework to the tangible, visible results of formatting text.
Now, since HTML is just a text file, you'd probably assume you could just hit the Enter key or the space bar to space things out visually, just like you would in Microsoft Word. But let's see what actually happens if we try to paste a beautifully spaced, multi-line poem directly into our HTML code.
Yeah, no way. It turns into a terrifying wall of text. See, because whitespace is really just for human readability, the web browser completely ignores all your extra spaces and line breaks. It brutally collapses the whole poem into a single, continuous wrapping line. The browser only cares about tags. It doesn't care at all about your keyboard's Enter key.
So, the trick here is knowing the right tool for the job. To separate that text, you could put every single line in its own P paragraph tag, which, remember, is a block container that needs a closing tag. Or, a much quicker fix is using the BR tag for a simple line break. The BR tag is a bit of a rebel because unlike our standard paragraph tag, it just inserts a break and does not require a closing partner at all.
Alternatively, if you're dealing with very specific spacing, you can use the pre-formatted pre-tag. If you wrap your poem in this, it literally forces the browser to respect your exact spaces and line breaks exactly as you type them in the editor. It also defaults to a fixed-width font, like Courier, which makes it perfect for displaying code snippets or, of course, a poem.
Okay, Section 5. Linking the web together, making the web wide. So we have our text formatted beautifully, but a single isolated page isn't really a web, is it? Let's figure out how we actually connect these separate text files across the internet.
We create hyperlinks using anchor tags, which are just represented by the letter A in brackets. But an anchor tag is useless without its attributes. We use the href attribute to specify the exact location we're pointing to, whether that's another URL or a file. We can also toss in a target attribute with the value _blank to force the browser to open that link in a brand new tab. You can even use the href attribute with a mail-to URL to instantly launch the user's default email program, drafting an email right to that address. Pretty slick.
And finally, Section 6, adding images, visualizing the web. Let's be honest, no web page is complete without a little visual flair. Let's look at embedding graphics. The web is a highly visual medium. The most popular image formats out there for web developers are PNGs and JPEGs. You can drop these onto your page using the IMG tag. Much like the anchor tag needs an href, your image tag uses the src or source attribute to direct the browser to the file's location. And just a quick note, when we're talking about sizing these images, remember that web measurements are always done in pixels.
Take a look at this fully built image tag in action. Notice how the src points directly to a PNG file, but we also have these optional width and height attributes. By explicitly defining these in pixels, you lock in the exact dimensions of the image on the page, which prevents the browser from having to guess based on the original file size.
But look closely at that code one more time. Most importantly, it includes the alt attribute. Sure, this text acts as a backup if the image fails to load, but crucially, it's what makes the web accessible. Screen readers actually use this alt text to describe images to users with vision impairments. So including an alt attribute isn't just a best practice. It is absolutely your responsibility as a developer to keep the web open and usable for everyone.
So there you have it. We've covered the structural trees, the tags, the links, and the images. Everything you see on the internet fundamentally boils down to these simple text rules, acting in total harmony. The next time you're browsing your favorite site, just remember, you're really just looking at a clever arrangement of text. The foundation is in your hands now, so what are you going to build with it? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and happy coding!